Welcome to the Mortgage Loan Officer Podcast. I'm Frank Ray, your host here. We're brought to you by the Mortgage Marketing Animals with our third segment. Call it our third and final segment with, well, I wouldn't say final, but third and final segment with the trip, with the van life series, if we want to put it that way,
Yes.
with Megan Anderson. Hi, Megan. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I am, you bet. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm just really intrigued and excited to talk to you about this. Of course, when we did our first episode, you were kind of just getting started. I think you were only into your van life trip, maybe a couple months or something like that.
Yeah, it was really early on. I think it was within the first like 20 days, actually.
Yeah, yeah. And then I caught you around the middle, you
Yeah.
know, and now here we are. You've done it. You've done the 365 days. And so obviously it was like, okay, let's get the wrap up here and see how things. So I want to just ask you a few quick questions. First one is I kind of opened with this question, but more on a personal level. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I don't think that I have been better in a very long time. Plus, I can't complain. I am here in beautiful, I guess I'm technically not in Spain. I'm in this country called Andorra, which is in between Spain and France. And I'm up here. I'm writing my book. I'm living my soul's purpose, and it's fantastic.
The next question I was going to ask is where are you? So I'm glad you answered that because I knew you were abroad, right? So writing
Yes.
a book, gosh, where do we even start to unpack all of this? I mean,
Oh,
there's so much, you know. Um,
yeah.
I guess let's start. Let's go. You brought up the book.
Mhm.
What's it about? What are you doing?
The book right now, the working title is called Limitless, and it's all about exploring what life would look like without the limits that we've placed on ourselves.
Okay, elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, all of us have self-created limits. Many of them we are aware of, and many of them we are not aware of. For example, I would say some common themes that maybe a lot of us share is maybe we have a fear around money on some level. A lot of us share that. Maybe we have a fear of success or failure. Maybe we have some limiting beliefs around our body image or what we can and can't receive in life. All of us have these limits that oftentimes started at a very young age for us. And it's almost like we started to live our life through the lens of fear. And that has developed our relationships in life, the actions that we take in life, the things that we put up with and don't put up with. And all of a sudden, you realize that it's been controlling your life.
Is this revelation um, in all or in part because of your journey?
It definitely has been developing and gaining a voice through this last year of my life. Um, I would say, and we have talked about this, I think, on a previous podcast, but the initial kind of beginning part where I think it was kind of a pivotal moment for me, where I really saw that I was controlling that my life was being lived through these self-created limits or fear was when I went to go get my breast implants removed. And at that point in time, I was bargaining with myself. Even though I had dealt with rashes and hives for the last decade, I had seen every specialist under the sun. I was bargaining with myself to keep them in a little bit longer until I found a husband, until because I felt like I wasn't going to be worthy enough once they were out of me. And at that point in time, it was like, whoa, you're willing to keep something that is physically causing you harm in your body because you're afraid that you're not going to be lovable. Like, this goes much deeper than these implants.
Hmm.
And that was kind of the first initial decision that I made for my own well-being. And then after that, the next decision was getting the van, living out this decade-long dream that I had that I hadn't pursued. And then, a cascade of things between, Barry at MBS Highway getting cancer
Yeah.
and people close to me passing away and becoming victim to addiction, and then starting to realize the addictions that I had in my life and how fear was actually, because I was living my life through fear, my coping mechanisms were not in alignment with who I am and my values and who I wanted to be. And they were keeping me from that. And the last year has been an explorative process of understanding that.
It had to have helped immensely in understanding that because I don't and I don't know, but I just me thinking of it would I could see that if I was spending a lot of time on the road between destinations, just me and my dog, right? There's a lot of time to self-reflect on a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? And to do it for such an extended period of time, I have to believe it was really impactful for you to get to this point where you feel like number one, you want to write this book, and number two, obviously, you believe you have the capacity and the content, right, to write a book on the matter. Am I accurate in that assessment?
Yeah, I mean, when you are spending, sometimes I would spend, weeks at a time in a forest completely by myself with no one around.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time with your thoughts and you gain a lot of awareness around that little voice inside your head and what it's saying and
Mm,
what you believe about yourself.
mm. Wow. Okay. So, any do you have a goal as like when this book may be completed and released, or are you just we're just going to let it flow and see when that appears, basically?
Well, I came specifically to this Airbnb where I'm at now for about 2.5 weeks, where I don't know, the last 4 days I've written 38 pages of this book. My goal by the end of this 2.5 weeks is to have my proposal basically finished. I did take a writer's boot camp like a couple months ago through Hay House, a publishing company, and I will be the final deadline for my book proposal is in May. So at that point in time, I'm hoping by like November, January, somewhere in between then, I have a solidified proposal. I have a literary agent where I'm sending it out to all the publishers. By May, I will submit it to Hay House. I'll hear back from them by March. And if nothing has been picked up by March, my book will be finished by then. I have no doubt if I've already 38 pages in and I'm here another week and a half, and all I'm doing is dedicating this entire Spain trip that I'm on right now is dedicated not only to writing this book and getting it out of me, but it is also about living the limitless philosophy and framework and putting myself through that and sharing it. And so I will be launching a YouTube channel here in the next week where I will be talking about the why of limitless and taking you guys through my journey of living and embodying this limitless philosophy.
This is awesome. I love this already. So, let me ask you this. I'm curious. You're out there. You're in Europe. Uh, you're there for a few weeks. The purpose being to really bear down on the book. Um, what's your day look like? Like, um, how do you do that? Like, I would be my, what my problem would be is I'd be like,
What?
I'm here for 2 weeks and I got to get this done. And I sit down and go, I can't even think of anything right now. I'm going to go crazy. Like, maybe I'll do this and maybe I'll do that. I mean, what's your day look like to get this done?
Well, for starters, I'm here a lot longer than a couple of weeks.
Mm,
I started off in Barcelona, where I allowed myself to not really focus on writing, just explore walking the city, going to see the things. And I spent 3 days in Barcelona. Then I got on a bus and came 3 hours north to Andorra, where I'm at now. And this part of the trip is focused solely on writing this book. I didn't rent a car, so I'm basically like in the mountains in this Airbnb with
mm.
enough food to last me, the 2 weeks to be here. And so my days start off the way that I've always imagined them to. I wake up naturally when the sun comes up around Here it's 7:30 in the morning, so I wake up at 7:30. I do my daily meditation, which I've been doing every morning for the past year plus. I get my daily prayer in, and then I start writing. And I probably end up writing a good like hour and a half to 2 hours before I get hungry and I make breakfast. And then but at that point in time, I feel like I need to get some movement in. So I go for a hike here. There's just trails right outside the Airbnb, which is fantastic. I come back, I get in another writing segment. I'm pretty burnt out of writing by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And so at that point in time, I take a break and I focus on other tasks. There's been a lot of little tasks kind of wrapping up my old life, stepping into this new life. So I'm still wrapping up some things. I'm also in a coaching program right now where I'm learning how to coach people through the reinvention process, which is getting me a lot of clarity around the framework of this whole limitless lifestyle as well, and coaching people in a different way than I ever have before. And so I'm focused on that. And then I read, and then I end up writing not my book, but just kind of a recap of my experience that day. And then I go to bed and I wake up and start it all over. However, by kind of like tomorrow, essentially, I've written the first four chapters of my book, which is my own limitless journey. And now it's going to be stepping into the framework, but I'm going to be taking a break to focus more on the creative side. So I'm going to be filming my first YouTube video, Why Limitless. And then after I leave here, I go on phase 3 of the adventure, which is going to be a little bit crazy. I head back to Barcelona for a second, where I am renting an SUV. And as you know, I've been living out of a van for the past year. And already, this van, I have noticed I already still have too many things. So I am going to explore what it is like to live very, very minimal. And I'm going to be living out of an SUV for the next 2 weeks of this trip. And this is where I'm really going to dive more into the community aspect of Limitless, because obviously I'm not going to be very comfortable sitting in an SUV all day, right? So it's really going to get me out into the community, get me out on more adventures where again, I'm going to be filming, I'm going to be creating. I'm not going to be focused so much on writing really at all, other than documenting my experience and living through example. And then after 2 weeks, I return the car, I get on a ferry to Morocco, and then I'll be exploring Morocco for about a week and a half. And then I will be going home to Wyoming because my dog Snoop, he got his wife pregnant. She's pregnant right now, and they will be having puppies.
I got to tell you that whole segment that you just spoke of, it was so bizarre to hear. Why? What was it, Wyoming?
Yes.
It was so weird to hear like Wyoming. It's like, you know, let me ask you this, man. Like, because I remember when you started, when you started, for you. My impression of when I spoke to you was like, yeah, this is like a little scary. Like, there you had some stress too. You know what I mean in the beginning. Where you were like,
Yes.
I'm not sure. I was worrying about where I'm going to stay next, and then that kind of over time that started to kind of dissolve, and you became a little more free flowing and not so concerned about things. You know what I mean? And do you think that, and then what you're doing now, I mean, to a lot of people would be like, what? Like you're just like going, and do
Yeah.
you think that the trip really helped? I don't think you could have been where you are right this second without the trip. I don't, I think the
No.
trip helped you believe that this is something that I can do. Am I right
Yeah.
in that?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey there, if you're loving the tips so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button and then click on the bell as well so you never miss out on more cool free tips coming your way. And also, would love to hear from you. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think or what you want to see next.
I think the whole 365 days of van life really kind of showed me that we are able to create the life that we want to live, that we're able to explore and get curious about what that looks like, that we're allowed to make mistakes along the way, that we're allowed to not know, we're allowed to step into fear. And we're also allowed to step into freedom and confidence
This is
and
so.
alignment.
I'm picking up what you're putting down too about the minimalist thing, right? So you
Yeah.
that how freeing is that for you?
I can't explain it. And you almost, even me talking about it, unless someone decides to live this way, you almost can't really even know what it feels like.
Hmm.
But it's so freeing in the sense that you're not attached to things as much anymore. Like so as a coping mechanism back in the day, if I was sad, feeling frustrated, my life wasn't where I wanted it to be, one of my coping mechanisms to get a little hit of dopamine was to go out and buy the latest and greatest, you name it,
Thing,
the
yeah.
latest Lululemon Align pants, the latest red bottom shoes, the latest purse that I needed to have. And all of those things were very short-lived. Like you had to keep going out and buying them to keep getting that hit of dopamine. But when you're not attached to things, it's just this whole new level of freedom. For one, there's a lot less to take care of. When you don't have a house, when you don't have all the things that you have to pay to maintain, there's a lot less freedom, there's a lot less stress. I mean, I don't have any overhead whatsoever aside from, what it takes to run my online business, which is very minimal. Aside from that, I have no debt, I have no obligations. It's completely free. And even before, I used to be attached so much to these one pair of shoes, to, this one bag. Well, it was a lot of shoes and a lot of bags, right?
Yeah.
But now I don't even like to go buy brand new clothing, to be completely honest. There are certain things, right? Like I'm not going to go to a thrift store and buy underwear. I'm not going to buy
Right.
used shoes because I just don't think they fit correctly and da da da. But like I packed 3 shirts when I came here, knowing that, yeah, I'm probably going to go out and buy some clothes. But I went to the thrift store and I ended up buying 4 sweaters that I've been wearing nonstop and I've been loving them, but I spent $32 on 4 sweaters. Am I going to feel attached to those, or am I going to feel comfortable dropping them back off at a thrift store and going back to Wyoming and not packing the stuff that I don't necessarily need?
Wow. Wow. This is so cool.
It's a
So
wild lifestyle.
it's that's a man, this has been just such a neat thing for you. And I think for a lot of us just peering in and watching, it's been really inspirational. Okay. Big changes. There's a couple we have to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, MBS Highway.
Yes, I decided to take a step back from MBS Highway. And
Is it from MBS or is it from the industry as a whole? Are you stepping out of that now and into another chapter completely of Megan Anderson?
um, we'll see how it all unfolds. I'm not saying, goodbye to the mortgage industry. I've grown very beautiful connections in this space, and it's been a really wonderful space for me to bloom into who I am, and I think that it will continue to do so. Now, do I hope and do I think that this whole limitless philosophy and movement that I'm trying to create, do I think that this needs to be boxed into the mortgage industry? No. I think that this can branch out and inspire and help, millions of people.
Yeah.
And that is ultimately like the goal that I'm reaching for. But does that mean that I need to X the mortgage industry? No. This has been such a wonderful, wonderful space and it continues. And the support that I have in this industry and the relationships that I've built over the past decade mean everything to me.
Hmm. So for now, though, it's a pause,
It's a step back.
step back. Okay. All right. Good to know. Interesting. Because I'm thinking when you announced that you were going to step back, there might have been a lot of industry people that were like, "Hey, call Megan right now, see if she'll come to work for us." You know what I mean? Like, did you get any inquiries? Did people reach out to you when you mentioned
People
that?
have reached out to me.
Yeah.
But I think I've also made it very clear that I stepped back to follow my passion and my purpose.
Yeah.
And the people that have reached out, it's more consulting work, which I'm not closed off to as long as
Mm,
it fits within the alignment of what I'm moving into. I have made very, very clear boundaries though. So the people that have reached out as far as consulting work, coaching work around AI, all of that kind of stuff, I have taken a step back and I said, I'm not taking on any new clientele. I'm not taking on any meetings until the new year. In the new year, we can discuss things. And the proposals that I did send off for the consulting work, I made sure that the language and what I am willing to do is only within alignment of what I'm stepping into.
okay. Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll have to rework that proposal then. No, I'm kidding. Um, okay, good to know. This is something that I'm really curious about, and I hope you're okay with sharing. So, you, when we first were talking on our first podcast, you had mentioned you had gone through a breakup, a relationship breakup, um, and I don't believe that you could have embarked on this journey and completed this journey in the way that you did if you would have been in a relationship. I think that would have been very difficult, right? So it was almost a blessing in a way that you were able to, now that that was not there, you could really focus on you and pursue the dream, the van life dream. You've made it known on social media. You're in a relationship now, so you found a fella, right?
I did find a fella, and it was very unexpected. And it happened at such a weird time as well. It is a relatively new thing, I will say. So we'll see what ends up happening with all of it. But he is an incredible man. There's something that happens when you stop living your life again through fear. So fear ran my decisions around relationships. And, without getting in too much detail, prior to this relationship, the relationships that I were in were kind of fear-based. They either provided financial security, which was something that was completely terrifying to me. That ultimately ended up being the falling out of all the past relationships. But this one, it just feels so much more aligned in the sense that I don't limit my voice anymore. I ask for what I need. I'm not choosing it out of fear. And I can't remember the last time I did that in a relationship. So I'm very excited to see where it goes.
Is there, and congratulations, and I know everybody's excited for you, and that's
Thank
really
you.
cool. And obviously, this is a very different place to be coming from for you, in this relationship. But is there, and you said you can do this without fear, but is there any fear back there that this relationship may hinder your newfound direction? Do you know what I mean? Is there any of that? Like, you're so
Yeah.
free, you don't have anything holding you back, right? But now you do have a relationship. Is there any, is there anything there that like
There,
maybe this could be problematic, or no? Are
yes.
you in?
Yes. No, I mean I'm in it. I will say I'm in it. But there was that initial fear, and sometimes it does come back up, right? There's a couple things. One, my old self, when I would get in relationships, would not put my needs first. I have a childhood wound that has put me through the fear and lens of you make yourself smaller, you make yourself digestible because that's the only way that you are worthy. You have to fight for love, and that's just the way that it is. And so there is part of me entering a new relationship where I have to make it very certain and I have to continually check in with myself. Am I putting my needs first? Am I voicing what I need? Right. So all of that is very important. Then you bring up the fact of that I have been very nomadic and I've been very free. Wherever I want to go, I can go. Right. And I understand that a relationship does require being together, right? To form a strong relationship, you need to spend time together. And when we got started on this relationship, I mean, a week later, I'm boarding a plane to go to Spain for a month and a half. And we've talked about that. He's very supportive of this dream, though. and understanding of what it involves and what it looks like. I'm not sure exactly what all of it's going to look like by the end of this trip, but I try not to think too far in the future. Obviously, these are conversations that him and I will need to have. I will say there is some apprehension about the idea of spending my winter in Wyoming, though. So, it's just one thing that we'll have to navigate. He ultimately does have a goal of becoming a little bit more nomadic as well, and he is a teacher right now, so he does at least have a lot of flexibility in being nomadic portions of the year.
Right.
We're just going to take it one step at a time and see what it evolves into and communicate and be honest along the way, and that's all we can do.
Got it. Okay. Well, you've amassed throughout the nation in the mortgage industry a bunch of men like me who consider ourselves to be like maybe your pseudo big brothers. So this guy better keep his act together. Otherwise, there's a lot of big brothers out there that are going to come to your rescue. Trust me on that.
Um,
Right?
I'll make sure he listens to
Make
this.
sure he knows. Okay. But wow, how cool is this? First of all, I just want to say congratulations to you on accomplishing the van life thing. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing it along the way. Because I think a lot of us just really enjoyed just seeing where's she at? What's she doing? This is so cool, and so that's been really, really cool. And I just want to say, I am 1,000% behind you on the next chapter, the book, everything. I know a lot of everybody is, we're all behind you on it. Looking forward to reading it, seeing it develop, the whole thing. So I just want to stay in touch with you, as you continue down the path and, let's do another podcast here in a few months or something and just see where you are at that point. Let's end with this though. And I hate doing this to people when I talk to them on a podcast, but let me ask you this really deep, really hard question. You figure it out right now. Do you know what I mean? But I am curious, is there anything that you learned along the journey, the van life journey that kind of rises to the top that you could share with us? Maybe that would help us too. Something that helped you, you know what I mean? That maybe would help us too. I don't know. And if you can't, just don't try to come up with something if you can't, if we can if we
Well,
want to address it in a future podcast, we can.
this is what I'll say.
Mm.
So oftentimes people look at the van life and they think, good for her, but I could never do something like that because I have a family, I have kids, I
Yeah.
have responsibility, I have all
Yeah.
these things.
Right.
And to that, I say this. For me, yes, I did have the perfect storm that allowed me to live out this dream. And I understand that a lot of you that are listening to this might have a similar dream or, imagine something like that or want your life to be some different way in some way. It doesn't take a big decision like buying a van and deciding to live in it for a year. All it takes is small micro actions. And through the course of doing those small micro actions, whatever they are, that's going to get you one step closer to overcoming that limit and living a more limitless life.
Wonderful. Great. What a great off the cuff answer. Appreciate it. Thank you, Megan.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me and looking forward to next time.
Me too. So thanks for joining us here, guys, on the Mortgage Loan Officer Podcast, brought to you by the Mortgage Marketing Animals. Do me a favor, leave your comments, reach out to Megan if you enjoyed the podcast, share it. It's going to be great stuff. We'll be staying in touch with Megan along her journey, wherever that goes. And as long as I stay in the industry, which probably isn't going to be that much longer, but we'll do that. And thank you again. And we'll catch up with you all next time here in the Mortgage Loan Officer Podcast. See ya. Adios.